What is going on, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome once again to the Tuffy Talk live show, y'all. This is going to be a huge banger, y'all. As we are dancing, baby. The Pac-9 is in the tournament. Pew, pew, pew. Let's go. We're so excited here today. Put me in, coach.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Play. Yeah, that's right. Let's go. Let's do it. Hey, I got my NC State shirt, and underneath it, I got my Oma Wolves shirt.
There we go. There we go.
So we got all the feels here today. So we're so excited to get this thing rolling here, start to break down, discuss, what to expect, what Pac-9 needs to do, our predictions, things like that. And we would love for all of you to join us here on the discussion and give us your own thoughts and predictions as well. So make sure in the comments, send us your thoughts, send us your predictions, send us your questions, whatever you got, send it to us and we will get to it here today, guaranteed. But I will be honest to say that I know for myself, I didn't play a lot of baseball. Wasn't necessarily around it that much either. And I mean, I know for Greg and Michael, I think I speak for all of us that we need that little bit of insider touch. And I know for myself, that I was lucky enough to be with Greg at a lot of the pre-game tailgates for the Pac-9 games. And one guy that always stood out, that I always seemed to know his stuff, is somebody that I think, Greg, if you wouldn't mind introducing our special guest, and we will get to it.
Yeah, we don't always get to have baseball players, right? Because we have to go all the hoops to get them. But all you got to know somebody to get a player's parent. So that's what we did today. We got number 31, but number 1 in our hearts, Win Scott's dad, Mr. Mark Scott. Let's go.
Awesome. All right. Hey, thanks for having me. Most places have a green room. I was waiting in your red room. The snacks and drinks are great.
Yeah.
There you go.
Good to hear. Good to hear. We pay extra for that, so so that's good to know they're treating you right. No, thank you, Mr. Scott. I really do appreciate you joining us here today, and definitely hoping you can help give us a little bit more insight to our followers in terms of maybe what are some opportunities for the state players this weekend. Maybe what are some of the challenges that maybe we're not even seeing as well for this weekend. But I'll get right to it again. I mean, just to kind of recap once again. So you got South Carolina as the host, as the 15 seed, correct? Yep.
15 national seed, yep.
15th national seed. And then you have Campbell as the number 2 seed, State is the 3 seed, and then Central Connecticut State University as the 4 seed. Yeah, that's trying to say that.
I don't know how such a small state has a Central.
I know, right? There's a center of Connecticut. I agree. I 100% agree. But so first of all, also too, want to actually take a quick pause right as well and remember all those. Again, we're celebrating Memorial Day today, so celebrating all of our men and women that we have lost. We thank you for everybody for their sacrifices, all the family and friends that have been touched. So I want to give a quick shout out to that before we move into this. Thank you, Michelle, for that reminder. But thank you everybody for tuning in. Really, I'm excited here. So Ms. Scott, tell us first and foremost, what was your thoughts when you saw? First of all, how excited were you? I mean, were you nervous a little bit about State getting in, or were you pretty confident?
Yeah, taking a cue from you, I must first also thank our veterans and those who passed. I missed the first 2 minutes of the selection show because I was visiting my dad, who's a veteran at a nursing home in Salisbury. So thank you to all the veterans, and we especially remember those who paid the ultimate price today. But to get to your question, Leighton, I think Greg knows that I was not nervous until we got down to about 3 regionals. I'm like, leading up to it, it's like, hey, RPI is not the end all be all, but if you're one of the top 25, let's say that they're wrong by 10 slots and we're only number 35, you still got to have 30 teams to pass us through either automatic bids or at large. So I felt very comfortable until there are only about 3 regions left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and so kind of give it to us. What was your reaction when you saw the slate with Campbell and South Carolina and Central Connecticut State? Were you excited? I mean, to me, it seems like it's definitely challenging. I mean, I know for me, being a partial South Carolina fan since my wife went there, that's interesting. But also too, I mean, seeing Campbell on the board was like, ooh, because I mean, all State fans were. Everybody was saying, yeah, no, Campbell definitely got screwed out of not hosting a regional for sure. And, seeing the pictures of, one guy wearing like a Spartan hat, helmet.
They're ready to go to war.
All that. Like they're ready for a war. And the first opportunity they have to go to war is against us on Friday at 1 p.m. So a definite challenge, but I think there's a lot of local bragging right interest there for sure.
Yeah, I like most people, that first split second, just relief, jubilation, exhilaration from seeing that name on the board. And then, the next mode, the competitive mode kicks in. It's like, all right, what have we got? And like you said, Campbell is very tough. Not only do they have a chip on their shoulder from not being a host site, but they're a very, very good team. And a lot of people are looking at how USC faltered down the stretch, but I believe they were 26-7 at home. I looked; they only lost 2 games all year to teams that did not make the field, and they won 11 games against teams that made the field. So we can't overlook them. And then, of course, we don't know anything, or I don't know anything about Central Connecticut State, but who knows? They could be a team like a UNCW or somebody's a little further down there that can beat anybody on any given day. So it will be interesting.
Absolutely. Yep. And I do want to go ahead and kind of bring up a little bit of a cheat sheet here that we can use as we kind of break this down a little bit here. But Michael, I know that you were going at it, over the last 48 hours talking about stats and RPIs and strength of schedules and everything like that. I mean, what kind of stood out to you here, when you kind of looked at, the resumes here?
Yeah, well, so just in general, the couple days leading up to it, just as I was, all the bubble talk, just looking into it more, and the more I was looking at it, I mean, the better I felt, honestly, about our resume. And this morning, I was like, I think we're gonna get in. Like, even with there were 3 stolen bids on Sunday, which was a little scary, but the more I looked at it, I mean. An RPI 23 is way better than any of the bubble teams. You had 10 quad 1 wins, which some hosts had 10 quad 1 wins. So I felt pretty confident after kind of just looking at everything. But our draw, I like it. But like you said, Campbell's going to have something to prove. USC, they're always tough at home. It's actually, so the top 3 seeds combined is the lowest RPI out of any regional. I think it's a combined, right? South Carolina's 8th, Campbell's 13th, and we're 23rd. So I think that's the lowest out of any of the top 3 seeds from any of the regionals. So, I mean, it's definitely going to be tough, but I like it.
Yeah. Well, and I do want to point out too that the interesting thing is that 15 of the 16 regional hosts are in the top 16 RPI, and Campbell was the only one who was 13th in the RPI that is not hosting, and the one that wasn't in the top 16 was Auburn, and they were 19th. Yeah. So very interesting for sure.
We'll let all the 10 hat people have their moment and let them duke that out in a room full of antennas. But
yeah.
Exactly. At the end of the day, you got to go out and play ball games, right? Whether it's on your home field or on the road, and from a state perspective, I like the pressure of not playing at home, and like state fans will travel. It's only depending on where you're coming from, like it's gonna be 6.5 hours for us, so we'll be there. But Raleigh area, you're talking what 3-4 hours, I think, something like that.
Yep.
Maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's doable. Friday at 1 is not an ideal time slot. Maybe you wanted that evening game to, that way you don't have to take a full day at work. But hey, if you want to be there, you'll find a way.
You win on Friday, you play Saturday night, so that one should be.
Actually, I don't think that's true. If I looked at the schedules, it looked like the winners played during the day and then the losers play at night. But I may be confused with that because I've seen so many darn things I can't keep up with what is what. But I believe the winners play the day and the losers play at night. But again, I could be wrong on that.
Hey, then if we win, we have that much more rest than the team that wins at 7:00 Friday.
Yeah.
So here's the schedule. So State plays Campbell at 1 p.m. on ACC Network. Game 2, South Carolina versus Central Connecticut State at 7 p.m. ESPN Plus. And then the losers play first at noon.
Oh, okay.
And then the winners play at 6 p.m.
All right. All right. I read that wrong then. I own it.
But hey, it's confusing. I get it. Not a problem. Hey, but now we know for sure. We're telling it to you like it is. I'm reading it directly off the South Carolina internet page right here. So
perfect.
Right from the
The Gamecock's mouth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So I want to get to a couple of comments here real quick. I want to give a shout out here. So first of all, I got to give a shout out to Amanda B, our brand new member to the channel. Again, y'all, it's super cheap here. You know, I think it's like 99 cents per month to join the channels, and obviously, you know, it's just really to help support us. Again, we really do pride on trying to give all of you in Wolfpack Nation the best content possible. So if you have 99 cents a month to give, you know, we really appreciate that support. And thank you, Amanda B, for doing that. But also got Steam Squad here in the highs with all the Wolfpack chants here in the comments.
Love it.
Got Wolfpack Crazy in here. We are in the tournament, raised by the Wolves. Woo, go Pack. Love that. And then Michelle talking about how she's in a little bit of a bind, how she's a loyal State fan, but she also graduated from Campbell's Pharmacy School. Completely understand that. So I'm sure either way you're looking for a great tournament. I think this is going to be a great regional. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so looking forward to that. And then lastly, Justin Cook says, "Sup, Mark and everyone." And then, let's see. Also to Seth saying, heard a rumor that Willis and Highfield were injured. Any word on Peyton Green too? I mean, I haven't heard anything like that.
Yeah,
I mean, Scott, I don't want to put you on the spot either, but
Peyton has had some nagging issues. He had gotten hurt in that Pitt series and
Yep.
tried to come back against Duke and then got pulled in that. So maybe another week of training will get him right. But Sam and Matt are good to go as far as I've heard. I mean, Sam just pitched the other night, so I don't think he's really dealing with anything.
Yeah. No. It may be more preventative than anything. I wouldn't read too much into that. But I mean, the one thing which I will say though, I'm trying to find who was it? Matt Heavner. Man, he stepped up, man, a freshman who looked really good stepping in for Peyton Green. So I mean, you know, obviously Peyton Green's the experienced guy that's played for us most of the whole season, but I mean, you know, if Matt Heavner continues with what he's doing, if we can give him some reps, give him some at-bats, and, see what we have in him long-term, put him in a little bit of a pressure cooker, and, see if there's something there that we can build off of, then so be it. So, but yeah. So
for me, it'll be interesting to see how we approach this. Obviously, you're in the time where it's one game at a time, but you also put all your chips in every game, right? Because you don't want to, you don't want to get in that loser's bracket and have to fight back, especially after that first game. So it will be interesting to see who we throw out there. Do you go with your normal Friday starter? Do you go with someone that has more experience, like a Sam Highfield or even Matt Willitson? Do you throw out Logan? That's for me is going to be the interesting part of this, because looking at Campbell's lineup, those boys can smash. They got three dudes that have almost 20 home runs, 60 RBIs, and hitting over 320. And they're no joke.
You can see it right there. According to this, I don't know if this is accurate. This says Campbell is first in the country in runs scored per game with almost 10 per game.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Home runs. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at here's a stat too. Let's play a game. Do they have more? Let me see how I want to phrase this, because this is going to be crazy. If I told you combined with doubles and triples or hit by pitch, what would you say?
Well, I mean, I would say doubles and triples, but I know Campbell's leads the country in hit by pitch too.
I think it's 146 hit by pitches this year.
Well, and the one thing which I do want to say, one thing that really stands out to me was more of the strength of schedule. Ours being 19th in the country, Campbell's being 91st. So, that could be a benefit. I know that Campbell, and the one time that we faced them, they beat us. So, that definitely.
Not this year.
Oh, no?
We didn't play them this year.
Last year. Okay, so we haven't faced them. That's right.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, so seeing 91st versus 19th for us, you almost say, okay, maybe have we been a little bit more challenged? Are we a little bit more, ready for this kind of stage? Because we've faced teams of strong caliber before.
Yeah.
So that could be a benefit. And I'm sure probably, believe it or not, I mean, and tell me, because I didn't really watch the post selection show, piece where they interviewed the committee chair and all that. Did they talk anything about why Campbell wasn't selected as a regional host? Because I'm sure that 91st strength of schedule has to do something with it.
They attempted to address it, and if I didn't know any better, the Auburn AD did his best Heisman because he was giving him the stiff arm, like he was not even trying to have any of that smoke.
Okay.
So
he was dancing. He kind of did an Elliott Avent circle around the umpire to get away from it.
Yeah,
well,
that's a good one.
And there's no doubt that college baseball definitely has a love affair with the SEC. So I think that that has to do a little bit with it. It's just the interest of Auburn, rather than Bowie's Creek, North Carolina, Campbell hosting a regional. But I don't know. So interesting stuff there. But
so I did do some breakout numbers here for Campbell if you're interested.
Go for it.
So we are 32-12 all time against them, but they have won the last 3 out of the last 4. So that just kind of speaks to their program coming up a little bit. They are 11-5 against tournament teams, so not bad. But 5 of those games are against Tulane and Louisiana. So the last part of that. Okay, so a little asterisk there. They did sweep ECU, winning 2 at home and 1 on the road. That's an interesting series how they did that. They took 2 or 3 from Coastal. They won the 2 at home and lost the 1 on the road. Lost twice to Duke, home and home, and beat UNC on the road.
Interesting.
So just some comparisons there.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, and ECU's been a weird one this year. Definitely. I know we are we've been generally inconsistent this season, but ECU, man, there's no reason they should have lost to Tulane in the championship match. That was like the biggest. What the heck are you doing? How did you just lose to Tulane and give them out of it?
Can you imagine if that was the team that knocked State out and ECU was involved in that? Like,
dude,
some
ECU would have loved that, man. The ECU fans would have cherished that.
Did it on purpose.
Yeah, they did it on purpose.
Yeah, thankfully it didn't happen.
No.
Yeah, you think about ECU's bats and how powerful their offense was in the games with NC State this year, and they went out to Wichita State and they got 1 hit 1 game and shut out, and 2 hit 1 game and scored only 1 run. And I believe they lost the 3rd game, not quite as badly. But so yeah, ECU's really been odd to figure this year.
Yeah, no, they've been very weird for sure. But I mean, I think this is. One of the few times that I think they hosted a regional 3 years in a row, if I remember correctly. If I remember that correctly.
Right.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised.
So, because I know a couple, 2 or 3 years, it must have been 3 years ago, we actually went to the ECU regional and lost. So, but yeah, and then Michelle brings up also an interesting little stat to remember that ironically, Campbell has NC State's old scoreboard. Interesting enough. So, kind of a little funny thing there. So it's like, hey, Campbell, you kind of owe us one. We gave you the scoreboard. So let us take on South Carolina and let's see which, which one can dupe it out. But, yeah. So tell me, Ms. Scott, so what would you say that first game against Campbell, what would you say is the key? What would you say, your prediction would be in terms of, do you go Willison, Whitaker, or do you go what would you say your strategy would be kind of heading into that first game? Which
let's hold on before I answer that. First off, if he had his choice, Win Scott would throw 9 innings. So
that's true.
Let's back that up a little bit.
And bat second.
Go a little Sam Highfield. I like it.
Yeah. Yes. No, love Win Scott.
Yeah. Great question. And I'm glad you asked it. If you don't mind, I'm going to back up to that for a second, because what I'm going to say is that the coaches know their personnel a lot better than we do. So it's fun. I love how you guys at Tuffy Talk try to guess at things and we try to figure things out. But the coaches know infinitely more than I do about it. And it reminds me, I'm looking on social media tomorrow to see what people, not with Tuffy Talk, but around the state fan base, are going to say, you know what? I bashed our non-conference schedule, but that 21-2 non-conference schedule helped get us in the tournament when we were 13-6 in the conference. There are a lot of people that owe Coach Avent an apology that we're bashing him this year.
We need to clip that and post that tomorrow.
Yeah, I like it.
I mean, you're right.
Yeah.
But you know what? Yeah. Before you get too far, we talked about that about basketball, and Michael, you kind of used that analogy earlier. It's like nothing's sexy on either end. You just putter along, do your thing, and then you shine in postseason.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with, it wasn't the toughest non-conference, but you won most of the games. I think, what did we lose? Two non-conference
21
games?
and 2.
Yeah. So as long as you can win them, it really doesn't matter. But if you do get into a situation where you drop a couple non-conference, that's where it helps to have the stronger schedule. But if you're going to win
where
them,
you're banking that the ACC is going to be the ACC, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you go back to last year, we can never know for sure, but as the first team out, had we not played Campbell and lost at Campbell last year and had played a cupcake and won, that could have been enough to get us in last year. Just saying, you never know. And while I'm on that, I want to mention that I don't know why we didn't schedule Campbell this year, but I know that their conference is so weak on the weekends that a lot of times they can throw their weekend starters like a bullpen, and instead of 30 pitches, throw them 40, 45 against us, knowing they're not going to need as much from them on the weekend. So when we played at Campbell and lost last year, I believe they had two of their weekend starters go 45 pitches each. And then when they were ahead toward the end, they threw their closer. Now, when we play other schools, they're not able to do that during the midweek. So I just wanted to mention those are things that coaches are thinking about that the average fan may not.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah. But back to your original question, we've got to jump ahead early. My son and I don't talk a lot of the specifics about baseball because he's living that 23 hours a day, 7 days a week. So the 1 hour that we chat, if he wants to talk baseball, we do. And sometimes we talk other things. But one of the things I think isn't a secret that Coach Avent has always wanted, you want to score first. You want to put a crooked number up somewhere, and you want to respond anytime the other team scores by scoring. And that's easy to say and harder to do. But I think especially in a regional, you just want to get on the board early. Get that zero off the board, I think, is really important. And then when you do that, you get some confidence throughout the lineup. The pitchers don't feel like they have to carry the whole team on their back. So as you asked for my thoughts to this, I think that's the key. Let's shut them down for at least the first few innings till we can get a run or two up on the board. And then I like our chances going from there.
Agreed.
I like what you said there, because it's in postseason play, everything's magnified, right? The next pitch is like everyone's on the edge of their seat to see what's going to happen next. And so it's about applying pressure. And I mentioned earlier that their defensive numbers statistically are actually a little bit worse than us. They're 967, we're 975. So I think to your point, the point is get the ball in play, make them make a play, right? Whether it's a bunt, whether it's, a hit and run, stealing, whatever it is, just, be smart about it, but strategically just keep applying pressure, keep that foot on the gas, because that's the one thing that I don't think we did that well against Duke. Now, give credit to Duke, is they threw everyone in the kitchen sink at us in that game, and they really kept us at bay after we put those 7 runs on the board. So the key is to score early and score often. I completely agree with you there, Mark.
Well, and again, just for me, because I feel like that two big things too, I would love to see more, which, I mean, if we haven't started doing it by this point, I don't think we're going to do it, but I would love to see a little bit more consistency in the batting lineup. To me, it's just, I feel like that baseball is, and again, I never played, a lot of baseball besides T-ball when I was a kid, but I feel like from the amount of baseball I've seen, it's a lot of it's rhythm. Like if you're hot, if you're rolling, then you got to roll. But if you're cold, then you got to kind of work out of it. You got to work through it. But the key is to have basically, and again, you tell me, Miss Guy, if I'm right, but basically, if you can get, half to 2/3 of your lineup hot, but have some of your guys cold, it's a balancing guy, because when the cold guys become hot, some of the hot guys might become cold. Like it's a routine. Like, which game, do you have certain guys rolling? Like one game, it might be Parker, Nolan, and Candelaria rolling, but then the next game it might be Cozart and Cannon Peoples. Like, that's it's not going to be the same guy every single time. I mean, unless you have just one superstar, which, I mean, I think we have some future superstars. Cannon Peoples has been phenomenal this year. So excited for what he's going to do during his time at State. But also too, I mean, again, just like Greg was saying, just do the little things. We don't have to win the game in one hit, which I feel like from what I saw in the Miami game, it seemed like we were trying to crank it open in one pitch, when it's like, just do the little things. If you have a guy on first and second with 1 out, just work it around. We don't need a 3-run homer right now. Just work them around, but we haven't really done that all season. So that's what kind of worries me. But, to me, I'm sitting here saying Parker Nolan, being a senior that he is, this is his last NCAA tournament. I mean, he's shown that he can be a highlight reel out in center field. He's shown that, he can be effective hitting the ball. To me, I mean, I feel like you got to find a way to get him into the lineup and see what he can do. That was kind of a big question mark for me, was why wasn't he in there against Miami? But, again, just like you were saying, Coach Scott, we are not in that locker room. And as a former state football, equipment manager, I can 100% say, I tell people this all the time. We're not at practice. We're not in the locker room. We have no idea what's going on. We don't know who's dealing with what, who's, in a funk, who's feeling good right now. Like, we don't know any of that stuff. So at the end of the day, all we can do is just trust the coaching staff. And same thing as well when it comes to post, season decisions. I know a lot of people are talking about right now, who's going to be let go, who's going to transfer, blah, blah, blah. Let's just focus on right now. Let's focus on this weekend. Let's try and get through this weekend. And if we do, great. If we don't, then we'll deal with it then. But at the end of the day, even once the season is over, once again, reminder that it's Boo Corrigan, Ellie Avent's decision that's going to decide it. We could talk about it until we're blue in the face. And some of the higher Wolfpack Club members, can have their say. And every in-state fan can have their say. But I'm just saying that at the end of the day, they're going to make the decision that's best for what they feel for this program. And especially right now, since we are really at a teetering stage with, where 2 years ago, we went to the College World Series, borderline should have won the national championship. We didn't get screwed. And also now we have a lot of money and renovations going into this football stadium. So to me right now, we got to keep this momentum going. We got to be moving up. We didn't make the tournament last year. So let's make some noise this year. See if we can get to a regional against Florida or Connecticut, whoever it is. And let's see what happens. Like everybody has said it all year. We have the talent to go as far as we want to go. It's just a matter of producing with it. We got to make it happen. We've seen it. We beat ECU. We've beaten, Coastal Carolina. We've beaten, we've won big games. We just got to do it more consistently. So that was my rant right there. That was a long one.
That was a rant.
That was a long one.
But
Sorry,
Leighton, you know what? You started off, asked me a question, and you were dead on. You said, some guys are hot at one time, some are hot at another time. And in golf, I believe they talk about brother-in-law on it. When, I'm not playing well, but my partner's playing well. And then I play good on a hole where he's down and your brother-in-law. I think you're exactly right. We've had different guys hot at different times, which, like you said, shows that we've got a lot of good players. And you hope that that not only does the coaching staff push the right buttons to get the right guys out there, but that the players will respond as well. I know there are times we tend to notice if a coach makes a change and it doesn't work out, but we don't notice as much when he does a good thing. And I know there were times when suddenly Chase Nixon comes in and gets a couple of doubles and does really well.
Boston College,
who hadn't played in a while, comes in, gets a couple of home runs. So you hope that you can just find that that magic that maybe Joe Boo from Major League sprinkles the stuff on his bat to where at least 6 or 7 of the guys are hot at the right time. But you're definitely right, Leighton, is trying to get 5, 6 of those guys hot this weekend.
So like kind of piggybacking off of that, like we were spoiled the year we went to the College World Series. Coach Avent rolled out the same lineup, 50 plus games. All he did was every day was just Xerox the one from the yesterday and pins it up there. I mean, it was so easy. But this year, through injury, like you said, hot and cold, whatever the case may be, is just finding the right guys at the right time to just make it happen as a team unit. Because look, the best team in baseball today, the Tampa Bay Rays, just got 1 hit. So it doesn't matter. But guess what? Tomorrow they can come out and score 15 runs. Baseball is the most fickle, stupid sport, and I love it. But it's baseball. Like you get a hot pitcher, he's got your number. If the wind is blowing in a certain way, you hit a ball, it should have gone 400 feet. It goes 288 feet. Like it's just a thing, man. So, and I say all of that is, there's nothing that precludes us from getting on a run and going to Omaha. There's just nothing. We only beat ourselves. Some days you're going to have a good pitcher. You tip your hat to them. They throw nasty stuff, whatever it may be. It's just what the game is. And so us as fans, Look, I went a little further than T-ball. I played high school ball, but like it's still it's a sport where it'll make you look smart on 30% of the time, and you're thinking, well, you're a failure, bro. You're a Hall of Famer. If you're successful 30% of the time.
Hey, Greg,
that's the crazy.
You're just spot on. You and Leighton are like 100%, Michael 100% of the time tonight, because you're right. I tell people a lot that the New York Yankees and LA Dodgers, when they are rolling and beating everybody, they still only win about 67% of their games. They lose 37% of the time to some of the worst teams in the league. Baseball is very fickle. And we as fans want to look at it like basketball. When we know that, State or Duke or Carolina is at the top, we know they're going to win 9 out of 10 games against whoever. But baseball just isn't that way, even when you are the dominant team, because like you say, you're only as good as the next day starting pitcher, or maybe a hitter goes in a slump. So, man, you guys are on top of it, man. That's why we like Tuffy Talk. You guys are on it.
Appreciate it. Yeah, no, I mean, again, for me, I'm sitting here saying it because I know somebody asked a question about, how far do we think State will go? And I've always said that predictions in baseball are absolutely useless. Who the heck knows? It is not a clue. It is just buckle your seatbelt. Let's see where this thing goes. Now, I mean, if I'm a betting man, and I were to pick a team I think is going to win the World Series, I have a hard time looking past Wake Forest just because their bullpen is absolutely phenomenal.
The number one seed hasn't won since the 90s.
1999, I believe. Yeah.
It's crazy. But I'm sitting here saying Wake Forest is so well-rounded. Like they have 6 guys who hit over 300. Their bullpen, they have 4 guys that are have under a 2.3 ERA. I mean, they're just so stacked from top to bottom. But yeah, I agree. I mean, again, it's definitely tough. But I also say as well that I think honestly them losing the ACC championship will, hopefully provide a little bit more momentum for them. But hey, listen, in the postseason, if State ends up facing them in Omaha, hey, anything can happen. I'm not sitting here saying that, all right, well, it was nice. It was nice while it lasted. No, hey, listen, if we're feeling it, let's take them. Let's go.
Baseball is such a crazy sport. I'll use 2 examples. Now, I don't think both of them were in college. I watched the highlight where the team won a state championship the other day on a drop third strike.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I saw another team drop a pop fly right in front of home plate, and the other team scored the winning run to win a ball game. It's the dumbest sport, I'm telling you, but I love it. Well, and it's not over until the 27th out is made, right? It's not 60 minutes. It's not, 40 minutes. It's when the 27th out is done. That's the game. So you never call it. I mean, it's just a sport that.
I mean, that the 2021 Omaha team is a perfect example of that. I mean, we went to Arkansas, lost the first game, 21-2?
21-2, 21-3. Yeah, we got destroyed.
So,
and we still win that series, and we're minus like 18 runs. On the run differential. I mean, it's just
hilarious. It's
crazy, right? So, look, we say all of that. Like, you can make predictions, and like you can look at all the analytics, and look at. I mean, we'll use this example: Moneyball. Homeboy constructed the perfect lineup and got to the playoffs, but didn't win. Right? Like, you can do everything right. You can do everything what they tell you to do. But the ball's going to do what the ball's going to do at the end of the day. So I'm excited about this. I think, again, like I said earlier, I like going on the road. There's less pressure on you. You just go out and play loose. And I think that's when you play your best baseball is when you're not pressing and you just go out and have a good time and remember when you were, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old playing in Little League.
Yep. Well, and for me, looking at this right now, because I think just to kind of wrap up kind of this one piece here, I want to kind of break this down to just like 3 keys. Like, if State is going to get through this regional, what are 3 keys that we need to focus on? That if we're going to get through
ball, hit ball, field ball.
Yeah, exactly. No, I would say honestly, just like Mr. Guy was saying, I think that getting off to a hot start early is huge, setting the tone, especially against a team like Campbell, where I think it's going to be, again, I mean, Campbell can surprise me. I don't know necessarily how big their fan base is, but I would say that, I mean, we're, going to have a pretty big showing there for that first game, and looking forward to it. So, I mean, I think if we can get, the momentum flowing, get into a field quickly, that'll be huge. But I like from a pitching side, just continue doing what we're doing. I mean, like our pitching's been solid, recently. Like it's the reasons we've lost have not been because of pitching, in my opinion. Against Miami, I mean, we only gave up really 3 runs due to pitching. I know, one was a pass ball by
Cozart.
Yep, Cozart. Yep. So, I mean, pitching did everything they needed to against Miami. Just batting, we just couldn't do anything past that first inning. So,
Yeah.
And that goes back to what Greg said about the ball bouncing. That pass ball, Cozart actually smothered it, but it hit off his shin guard and goes 40 feet back out to the pitcher's mound. You can't predict that kind of crazy stuff.
No. And honestly, the one of the we've had some Achilles heels all year. Let's not beat that around, but situational hitting, men left on base has been a really one that when we look back, if we don't get the results that we want, that's going to be something where we'll be like, because I think that Miami game we had like 10 or 11 left on. And so good teams, you have to take advantage of situations when you have men on base, because those don't just present themselves all the time. And so when and again, it goes back to putting pressure on the defense, put pressure on that defense, make them go out and make a play. In college baseball, especially, you'll see teams make 2, 3, 4 errors a game. It's not uncommon. I mean, I think it's more uncommon to see a clean error column on both teams than it is at least one team making at least one error. So that one error could be the difference of winning a ball game or not winning a ball game. And it's just putting the ball in play and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Ms. Scott, would you add any other kind of keys to that before we kind of wrap this piece up here?
I will double down on what Greg said. You're right. When you look at the playoffs, more people are familiar with Major League playoffs and World Series. And the Yankees have been a great team, but they don't manufacture runs. And when you're facing number 1 and number 2 starters, you've got to manufacture and claw for a run here and there. You're not going to get as many home runs. And the college World Series and college playoffs are the same. Until you get down to that 2nd, 3rd, 4th day out of the losers bracket or whatever, everybody's using their top pitchers. And you've got to manufacture some runs, like Greg said, either by getting some timely hits with men in scoring position, or stealing some bases, putting some pressure on the defense. So I agree with that 100%.
One thing before we wrap up on this, the presumptive pitcher for Campbell has a 2.82 ERA. So that goes out. Good. Yeah, very good. So that being said, when you get people on, you have to figure out a way. He's only going to give you potentially 3 runs.
Yep. And Greg, that reminds me. I would hope that the players, that confidence we talked about, and Wake Forest, the consensus number 1 team in the nation, we played them twice this year. Yep. We were ahead of them in the 7th inning one game, tied with them in the 7th inning in the other game, with great pitchers that I'm sure are as good or better than anybody we face. So we need that confidence that we can score against anybody.
That's a good point. Really good point.
Yep. And again, Salute 35, I think, says it best here, saying, runners left on base and errors have been the biggest issue for us all year. Has to change to win this regional, but nothing has changed all year. So let's hope something finally works. And I mean, I say once again that, up until this point, we've had issues that have plagued us the entire season. But again, Friday's a new day. It can change, on Friday. Now, I mean, again, is it, if it does change on Friday, it's gonna be like, well, why did we do this earlier? Why do we wait till now to make it right? But hey, listen, we're sitting here saying yesterday's too far gone. Tomorrow's another opportunity. That's all we can do is just control Friday, 1 p.m. versus Campbell in Columbia, South Carolina. I don't even know the name of their stadium. I was trying to
Founders Park.
Founders Park. Okay, in Founders Park in Columbia, South Carolina. Is it going to be hot there, Greg? Have you even looked at the weather yet?
Man, I have, so many things in trying to figure this out. I haven't even looked at the weather. Not sure.
I looked low to mid 80s and the lows in the low to mid 60s. So that can be one of the hottest places on the East Coast. So thank God it's not one of those 95 degree times. But yeah, it should be 82 to 84 for the high each day is what I saw.
And I don't know enough about the ballpark to know how the ball travels and all of that. That's just one of those things where, if we were talking, if it was being played at Doak, we can talk about the Doak stream, and we know all the ins and outs of how that ballpark plays. So, just, you go out and play the game, man. I mean, at the end of the day, it's, hit ball. I mean, I said it earlier, and I was kind of joking, but it's the basic fundamentals. And if you go out and do those things, you give yourself a chance to win a ball game. Yeah. But the other thing I want to say too is, let's go out and root against South Carolina, because I will say, watching the games last year where the regional teams got knocked out really early, those ballparks and those latter stages of the games are quiet, and that could be your advantage. We don't want a rowdy park, man, against us.
Yeah.
Not to say we can't go out and play in that, but I definitely would prefer not to.
Yeah, because I mean, there's one thing for sure. South Carolina definitely loves their baseball. Has a huge. I would say, you know, they're probably definitely the top 15, 20 programs in terms of baseball tradition. I mean, one of the few teams to ever win back-to-back national championships is pretty big.
With our old coach, let's not talk about that.
Listen, you know, Ray Tanner, you know, he did a lot here at State, and you know, went on to, you know, South Carolina win back-to-back national championships, and now is athletic director. So I mean, you know, hey, to me, I have no issues. Hey, I've actually spoken with Ray Tanner before. Great guy, for sure, and definitely still loves NC State. State will always have a special place in his heart. And I know that Coach Avon today was even talking about, you know, the opportunity of you know, competing, not necessarily against, but you know, seeing his old oh man, what's the word? Mentor. Yep, I was like mentor in Ray Tanner, and former in-state baseball coach. So excited for that. Yeah. So anyway, well, thank you, Ms. Scott. Really do appreciate your time. Thank you so much again. You know, definitely looking forward to, you know, seeing y'all in Columbia this weekend, and hopefully y'all can come back here to Raleigh, you know, by Sunday or Monday with a big regional win, and we'll start making plans for Florida or Connecticut, whichever comes next.
Hey, real quick. Hey, Mark, if you want to share your socials out there, you're a really good baseball follower. If you want to share it, throw it out there. If not, no worries.
Well, thanks. I believe the Instagram may be Dub Scott Dad. Heck, I don't. Do you recall what my Twitter handle is? Is it just Mark Scott? I don't even remember. Greg, do you remember?
I don't, man. I just know you. Well, I'll post it in the chat.
I just mussed the punt, didn't I? Sorry,
yeah, man.
I mussed the punt.
I threw the alley and you ooped it. So,
That's right.
Oopsed it. Yeah.
Hey guys, I appreciate all that you guys do. You do a great job of growing the fan base of State sports, and you do it in the right way. You guys question things. We think, hey, why wasn't this done? Why wasn't that done? But you guys never bash our people. You do it in a great way that I think the parents, the family, the friends of everybody can get behind you guys. That's why we respect you so much. And we don't want you to stop questioning things. That's what helps build it. You know, it's kind of like debate. If you just sit there with people that agree with you all the time, you don't improve your own argument. So we love what you guys do. You do it in the right way. And talking baseball is like my porn, so call me anytime.
Hey, Mark.
Absolutely.
Mark, yes, I can't share your stupid Twitter handle. I need you to change it.
Sorry, guys. I believe it may be the NJUNC 1223.
Yeah, we should have done this full disclosure nonsense beginning that Mark's a UNC graduate.
Yes, I am a UNC grad, ran track at Carolina, but my best times were always at NC State. My best track times were here. I lived with some of my high school buddies that went to NC State my last semester at Carolina, and I'm all in on the Pack, guys. I mean, you're going to see it for the first time from Mark Scott.
I love it. Thank you, Ms. Scott. Appreciate you, and go Pack, baby. We'll see y'all soon.
Thanks, Mark.
Awesome. All righty, y'all. Well, yeah, definitely, you know, just excited for sure. And hey, just a reminder again, hey, now, you know, Ms. Scott's talking about, you know, his you know, track days at UNC. Hey, now NC State's a little bit of a cross country school, you know, there. So, so, you know, just saying. But I do want to, you know, highlight a couple more tweets of the week here, talking about the baseball side before we jump on over to talking about Patrick Bailey and Diana Schneider as well. So with that being said, let's jump on over some tweets of the week. All righty. So this first one here is from the David Glenn Show, talking about the 2023 NCAA baseball bids in terms of state representation. So meaning, so for example, North Carolina leads the race with 8 teams that receive bids in the NCAA baseball tournament, with Campbell, Charlotte, Duke, ECU State, UNC Wilmington, and Wake Forest. And then the closest state is Texas with 6. But the interesting thing, though, is that none of those 6 are regional hosts, which I think they were saying is one of the first times in a while that there's not a single team from the state of Texas that's a regional host. So
yeah, it's really weird. You look at the geographic map, it's like everyone is east of the Mississippi, and you had one little lone one out there in Stanford. It was it's pretty wild to see the, you know, that was one of the things they kept complaining about was, growing the game. But
Yeah.
look, if those are the best teams, those are the best teams.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I also want to give a shout out as well. I know just kind of a little bit of a sidetrack here. Seth was talking here in this comment talking about how Caleb Martin with the Miami Heat got a bucket tonight, and also too, just so y'all know, there's 5 minutes left in the first quarter, and it was 9-6 last time I saw. So very low scoring. Yeah. Crazy. But anyway, jump back into this. So
hold on. Pac Pro question mark?
I know. And again, I know I kind of maybe sent some people sideways talking about Caleb Martin and the Martin twins versus Maverick Rowan, but that's still another thing where that's what I've heard repeatedly, but at the end of the day it's still an in the locker room thing. So it's just he said versus she said, and at the end of the day, listen, what happened, hopefully for better reasons than worse. Hopefully it was for the Martin twins, wanting a better opportunity, not necessarily just to get away from us. It's just
no. I think the common perception out there was they were chased off. I think a lot of what you hear and read, when you see it more often than not, and that becomes the narrative, usually that's what usually happens.
Well, and exactly, I've heard from multiple people that Mark Godfrey had a love for Maverick Rowan. He loved Maverick Rowan. And which didn't work out, but at the end of the day, Godfire is not here no more, so we'll move on from that.
The only thing that saved that was the Maverick movie. That was the worst Maverick control, the Maverick movie. So I'm glad I'm glad Maverick Top Gun saved that.
Exactly.
Before that, Maverick was a dirty word.
Exactly. So I mean, at the end of the day, for me as a State fan, hopefully for most State fans, I mean, you're gonna cheer for the Martin twins. We're doing great in the pros. Caleb Martin with Miami and Cody Martin with Charlotte.
Last time I saw,
so excited for them. But jumping back into this though, so for me, honestly, the first thing that comes to my mind is last year when we did kind of our North Carolina tour, where we basically faced pretty much every single team from the state of North Carolina, and thinking about how much baseball has grown, in this area. Because honestly, for me, I'm sitting here saying this got to be definitely a recruiting pitch of a sort for sure. I mean, this is the most teams that have qualified for the NCAA baseball tournament in North Carolina history. Having 8. So, I mean, it's obvious that's screaming out the growth of baseball and, the competition level in this area. I mean, if you come to any one of these schools in the area, even just out of conference, you're going to be competing against some of the best teams that college baseball has to offer, and right down the road, you got literally Clemson, South Carolina, and Coastal Carolina, 3 teams from the state of South Carolina that made the tournament as well. So that's 11 teams right now just between North Carolina and South Carolina. So if you come to this area, you are competing against the best that college baseball has to offer, just statistically.
Yeah, and here's the thing I'll use too is if you just look at state size comparison, right? You have North Carolina, you get state size like Texas, California, Florida. Those are hotbeds of baseball, right? And you add up Florida and California combined, the state of North Carolina still has more, right? So just the fact that North Carolina is a great place, warm weather, you can play year round. I see this becoming more and more the norm instead of the outlier, because you look at these programs on this list, these are some traditional, with the exception of maybe Duke. These are teams that have been continuously good for 5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean Wake Forest has a great a long-standing tradition and has gotten better and better over the years. UNC Wilmington, they love and breathe their baseball. UNC State, ECU loves their baseball. Duke, as of recently, has started to really kind of climb. And the same thing with Campbell and Charlotte as well. So again,
we picked a couple of guys off the Charlotte squad, right? Gino and Don Palali.
Palali, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything to add here, Michael, before we move on to our next tweet?
I just think it's, with that many teams from North Carolina, I mean, it's impressive where we are. I mean, that level of competition just in your own state is crazy.
Absolutely. Yep. And they want to add in this one comment here from Michelle saying, I lived in Omaha for a year, and the traditional College World Series schools had bars that they called their own. I would love to see State have their own bar in Omaha soon. I mean, I've said it, and I've told my parents this because when we went to Omaha back in 2021, I went by myself, and I said, next time my wife and my parents, like, y'all are going with us. Like, it
was awesome.
It's such an experience. Like, it's hot as all get outs. Like, it's scary hot, honestly. But I mean, it's just, there's nothing like it. There's no experience like it. In all
I mean, can we take
sports,
a minute to talk about that too? Because I think that's like
Yeah.
an underrated. Because Michelle's completely right. I went to, I can't remember the name of the dang bar. My dad was at one place. We were grabbing food. I went over there to grab food, and then of course it was the bar that had like a scoreboard of shots, and so I bought like 5. I bought the first 5 for NC State.
And Ole Miss killed it last year, which I was excited for them too. Yeah.
But the one guy, he owned a bar right outside of Arkansas Stadium, and like Michelle said, like that was their official Arkansas bar while they were there in Omaha. And I remember when it was my dad and I's trip. It was Father's Day. I had just gotten married like 3 weeks ago. I left my bride to go to Omaha. I said, see ya. Like, we're going to Omaha. Like we have a lifelong together. I don't know how many times that State's got to go to Omaha. So I go. I met Leighton within the first hour or so. The cops, we get pulled over at the airport, and the cops were like, go beat, somebody, I can't remember who, because they knocked out Nebraska, and so they adopted us as like their team of like destiny. Oh, it was Arkansas. Arkansas knocked them out. Yeah.
Yep.
And it was just an awesome time. And then I remember after the Vanderbilt game, we go out drinking and partying, and like there's like it's like a club environment, and the players and the families were just all like hooping and hollering. It was like the best week of my life until the NCAA decided to tell me to go home. You're drunk. You can't stay here. So, but all that being said, if anyone, and even if a state doesn't make it, it's a bucket list item. If you're truly a sports fan, right? Maybe it's going to an all-star game or going to the Kentucky Derby. It's just one of those things as a sports fan. You got to go put it in the check in the box, and tickets are cheap. And the city of Omaha really embraces it. And Michelle was spot on with that comment.
And because just to remind you as well, for those, because I know that when we were in Omaha, that this question came up multiple times, but that stadium is primarily centered for the College World Series.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a professional stadium for somebody else. Like, they'll do a couple games here and there around it, but like that stadium is for the College World Series.
Yeah, I think Creighton plays their home baseball games there, but that's it. Like,
that's it. And
because they have the Storm Chasers, which is a AAA team for the Royals. 2 towns over, like they built their own state. Like, that was a big contention. They're like, no, like, we are building this strictly for the College World Series to host it every year. But it's a great environment. And if you do go, skip the first weekend, go the following in the middle of the week. Tickets are cheaper and the hotels drop drastically. The hotel prices, like, they know what they're doing. It's capitalism at its best.
Of course, we say that, but that first weekend that I happened to go was obviously end up being the weekend to go. So as long as there's not a global pandemic going on, then I would recommend going with Greg's recommendation there, going the second weekend. So absolutely. All right, y'all. And then moving on to our next tweet of the week here. So this is kind of an interesting one. I want to hear I know we have some people here with us. I want to hear your thoughts, but how surprised were you at the fact that we were not one of the last 4 teams that made the tournament? The 4 teams that the NCAA came out with were Arizona, Louisiana Lafayette, Troy, and Oklahoma. But State was not even in the last 4, which, I mean, says that we pretty much were solidly in. I would say that even if I can't remember, there was one. If like Notre Dame had beaten Wake Forest, that we probably still would have been in.
Yeah, so this is telling us we were 60 or lower, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you're even before that, because there were 3 bids stolen on Sunday, so that means we were like in the mid 50s,
right?
Before that
happened.
So, and I think that goes back to Michael, what you were talking about the RPI earlier, right? Like, that was the metrics that they really honed in on this year for whatever reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, so Michelle says, grateful we were not one of the last four and shows importance of RPI. Well, again, importance of RPI for this year, but next year it could be completely different. Like it's go ahead.
With baseball, the being in the last four in doesn't really mean as much in basketball, because in basketball, you got if you're in the last four in, you have to play an additional game. With baseball, it's just you're just last four.
You just go into a tougher region.
Right. Yeah.
Because allegedly they snake down as well. Mm-hmm. Now the one thing we were talking about the RPI and if they change it or whatever, but Coach Avent in his press conference this afternoon about getting in, one of the first highlights was for the first 20-30 minutes he didn't even know who we were playing because they were celebrating so much they lost. He didn't see it on the screen, so then he had to figure it out. So I thought that was pretty funny. And then
that's awesome.
Yeah, then he was talking about, well, if you move the goalpost or change the criteria for getting in, he's like, we've already scheduled our opponents for the next 2 years based on current conditions. So
interesting.
Like you really just can't drop it and flip it, right? So we'll see what they do in the future, but that seems to be a big bone of contention for folks is the RPI. And we've found this out with basketball. There's no one good, solid, one size fits all metric you're going to be able to apply. Someone's always going to have an argument for being the 65th team, right, or whatever that number is that gets you left out of the tournament. So then all you're going to keep saying is, well, just add more teams. Well, at that point, everybody gets a darn participation trophy. So at some point, you have to draw the line in the sand.
Yeah. Well, and you want a level of competition too. Like you don't want a team that finished in the middle of the Pac-12 playing Florida or something like that. It's like, okay, I mean, I know anything can happen, but I mean, let's be real here. So yeah, I agree. And to kind of prove that point, on our next tweet of the week here from Warren Nolan, when the ESPN,
hold on. No, Michael Tracy, this dude stole.
I don't know if he saw my tweet.
Yeah, I don't know either. But you definitely, if you look at the timestamps, your timestamp was in before. I got you, Michael. Don't let Leighton tell you nothing different.
Hey, listen, you're right. Again, I didn't even think about that, but you're 100% right. Again, our boy Michael Tracy has been on the button over the last 48 hours. That's all I'm going to say. So anyway, Michael Tracy and Warren Nolan said,
I had to use his website to get the info. So there you go.
So credit partial there to him. All right, cool. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, but you put in the work, Michael.
That's right. That's right. All right. So in the selection shows, bash the RPI segment. Let's cherry pick two teams. And basically ESPN was comparing UC Santa Barbara versus NC State. Basically, this graphic for those who were listening was saying, well, both these teams. So State was 35-19 overall. So UC Santa Barbara was 35-20 overall. So just one more loss, same amount of wins. State was 10-17 against top 50 teams. UC Santa Barbara was 6-4 versus top 50 teams. But then the big difference is that RPI, State was 23, UC Santa Barbara was 56. So obviously on ESPN, they were like, how could UC Santa Barbara not get in, but State does get in? And basically,
can I pause you, Leighton, for 1 second?
Go ahead.
And I will buy anyone a steak dinner if they can tell me what conference USC Santa Barbara plays in.
I'm. Well, it's not a Power 5, right? So.
right. But you get what I'm saying, and I get it. Like they're out playing baseball. Like they're probably this is probably going to sting when I say this. They're probably the Campbell of the West Coast, right? A good solid team that's a conference that nobody knows of because anyone on the West Coast would probably say the same about Campbell.
Yeah. Well, and because the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of a smaller school like UC Santa Barbara is you think, well, strength of schedule has to come into play here, and 100% does. State strength of schedule was 21, UC Santa Barbara was 90.
And that's the point I was making about the conference comparison.
Yep. And Seth Seth makes the other comment before I let you go, Michael, about how UC Santa Barbara played 0 teams in the top 25 RPI. State played 17 games against top 25 RPI. Go ahead, Michael.
And this was just such a weird comparison to single out these two because UC Santa Barbara weren't even in the first 4 out.
Right.
Yeah. They weren't even close.
So I don't know. But yeah. So like who was that? Who just said that comment? Seth. Yeah. UC Santa Barbara, the best team they played was Oregon, who was 34. Which they swept Oregon at 34, but that was the highest team in the RPI they played.
Like, so there's your thing. They swept a tournament team, right? That's their claim to fame.
Yeah, but they also didn't play anyone higher than 34 in the RPI when State had, I think, 22 games higher than that, with 6 of them wins, a bunch of them top 10.
But Michael, didn't you even say like the stat they used wasn't even the most up to date as well?
No, so that was I got that mixed up. That was
Okay.
UC Irvine, not UC Santa Barbara. But in the same vein, it also just like, and UC Santa Barbara also had 7 losses to teams 150 or higher. Like, that's obviously going to tank your RPI. So
I just want to put that right there because she ain't wrong, right?
Yes.
Like from not knowing our name, right? From North Carolina Wolfpack or whatever, Stanford Wolfpack, whatever they want to call us, because I've seen and heard it all. To how much the love fest goes with Duke and Carolina. She's not wrong. I mean, and maybe we're being petty. I don't know. Like, call me king of petty then. Like, I get so like tired of, because it always feels like all they do is just pile on us. Like,
I don't think so, because like I said, State wasn't in the last 4 in, and UC Santa Barbara wasn't in the first 4 out. It'd be one thing if you're like comparing the last 2 teams, the one that got in and the one that got left out, but like, I don't know.
Well, the one thing which I did think was funny, can't remember which it was one of the first or last 4 out teams, and I remember they interviewed this is the one clip I did see from the interview, was they interviewed the NCAA chair guy and asked, like, what did this team need to do, in order to make it? And the guy was like, well, they did everything right. And it's like,
obviously they did it.
Why'd you say that?
He was so asleep at the wheel when they were doing it. Like, he was so ill prepared. And I'm like,
it's like, wait, you just said that a team that you're leaving out of tournament did quote unquote everything right?
Right, yeah.
No, you got like, don't say that.
Well, maybe, buddy, you did everything wrong. Like, I mean, I don't know how you even. Like I said, he was the worst interview. He was trying to tap dance through every tough question, and I'll give ESPN credit. Like, they did ask him the tough questions.
He did ask,
but
I
mean, you weren't going to get an answer from him because, I mean, at the end of the day, the deed has been done.
Absolutely.
That's also, exactly right. And it's also, I don't envy that job either, which Bukorian has for the college football playoff. Luckily, this year the playoff ended up pretty simple, like it was pretty universally agreed on. But he's got 2 more years, so he may make a fool of himself on TV sometime, like this guy. But we'll see.
And because again, like, what other sport is there where, like last year, the one of the last teams to get into the tournament that barely got in ended up winning the national championship? I mean, like,
at that point you're justifying. You hate to see it.
Yeah, right.
Because most of the time they're at best 50-50 getting it right.
Yeah,
at best.
So when they can say, "Look, this last team that we put in won the whole thing,"
and you know that's going to be something that they hang their hat on forever. So it's just like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we got in, we were safely in. And here's the other thing too. Like, if you looked at Twitter, the sky was falling over the last probably 72 hours, right? And I thought we were in, but again, state stuff is a real thing, no matter how hard you want to deny it. Yeah. And so you were just like, okay, when is the shoe gonna fall and we're gonna be out again? And then, we're talking about, okay, where do we go from now? Back-to-back seasons, not making the tournament. And like, what does Boo do? You're trying to build a new facility essentially, or redo the facility. You're going to probably lose recruits. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. Thankfully, we're not having that discussion today. And we're talking about what do we do to need to win a regional. So thank goodness for that.
Yeah. Nope. And again, go ahead, Michael.
I was just gonna say, looking back, that Pitt sweep was huge. I mean, if we went 2-1 in that and still won the series but dropped the game, I don't know if we'd be.
That's a great point too, because here's the thing: you go 2-1, don't win the right 2, you may not make an ACC tournament. Then you're definitely probably not making the NCAA tournament, right? So we went from outside in to in, win a game, and then secure. So look. Yep. Sam said it right. Like, we are surging at the right time. We've won 5 of 6, I think, something like that.
4 or 5.
4 or 5.
Yep.
Yeah, but we won midweek too. We had no midweek that week. Midweek, yeah. But anyway, we're doing what we need to do. Now we just got to go out and get consistent and get some good results.
And Michelle kind of wraps us up here by saying, until the announcement is made or clock goes 0, we hold our breath. And that's the life of NC State fan for sure. You hold your breath and just see what happens. So luckily enough today, the news is on our side. But just to kind of wrap this thing up here, a couple other things I wanted to talk about. So Drew Johnson here puts together a tweet saying that only 8 athletic programs made a football bowl game, the men's and women's the men's and women's NCAA basketball tournament, and the NCAA baseball tournament. Now, I do want to, preface this that a lot of people said this as well, that we lost the bowl game. We got knocked out of the first round of both basketball, tournaments of opening rounds. So yes, I get that for sure. But
so you're saying there's a chance.
So basically what I'm saying is that there's no way that we go that we lose in the regional in the baseball tournament, because there's no way we have that much bad luck, in 4 postseason opportunities. But again, y'all, it's just great to see. And again, we want to point out that these 8 names as well includes NC State, Duke, Iowa, Alabama, Maryland, Tennessee, Texas, and UConn. So
again, UConn on there. That's a surprising one, but
yeah,
we could have really cherry picked this, and if we threw tennis in there, I bet we're the only one, right? No, I think
Texas, probably Duke.
Probably Texas.
Probably Texas.
Yeah, but anyway.
But still, maybe 3 or 4 schools. Yes, you're right. So
but
again,
that goes back to the Capital One Director Cup points, right? Like I feel like we're gonna have a great showing when those final numbers come out here, probably in the next 3 to 4 weeks.
As long as we don't get disqualified, where instead of getting points for baseball, you get 0 points for baseball.
Yeah.
Just saying, that's
the ultimate.
I would say that's honestly one of the bigger screws, even of anything else, because instead of getting a good amount of points for making it to the College World Series, you get 0 because you got disqualified back.
It's like you never showed up.
Stupid.
Yeah, basically, it's like you didn't even play the season. That was crap. So yeah, just wanted to add that in. And then the last one here, that's David Teal saying that's a wrap on conference championships for ACC. That State actually tied Clemson with 4 ACC titles in the 2022-2023 athletic season. And then UVA and Virginia Tech and Duke are second with 3. So again, I know that there's a lot of comments about, well, you can't necessarily say this was because of Boo. Absolutely not. Anybody who's been a State fan for more than 3 years knows that. I mean, Debbie Yao set the bar, and she got us to that point. And then I think, honestly, Boo, it's just been
he's right in the course
for dear life. Because the only thing which I do got to say this again too, that like I would say that ever since Boo has come on, the pressure level has really stepped up in terms of from his role as in-state athletic director. What do I mean by that? Within literally 3 or 4 months, he had to deal with the 2021 College World Series crap. Like right out of the gate, he had to deal with that. He's had to deal with conference realignment conversations. He's had to deal with state women's basketball, having to go play at Connecticut versus UConn. Those conversations. Like he's had to deal with softball. Moving on from the head coach. Like there's a lot there that's not normal for sure. Conference realignment and the College World Series alone, those 2 things are huge.
Don't forget the bowl game too in San Diego.
Yeah, exactly. That too. I mean, dude. So that's and because again, I can say this from an internal aspect that Boo Corrigan was one of the lead guys trying and begging and being on the call 24/7 to try and find State another place to go play a bowl game, and there was just no opportunity that came available. And so I can't say enough that, again, I know every State fan says, well, but we don't know what he's thinking. We don't know what he is doing, like we did with Debbie Yao. But listen, he's done a great job of keeping everything that Debbie Yao has done and trying to build on it. So huge hats off to Boo.
Yeah, I'll say this. There's probably 100 different leadership styles, right? And not one is the best way of leading. But at the end of the day, it's all about being results oriented. And I think we're seeing that we are getting good results from his leadership. So I don't have a problem with him not, having the pom-poms and the megaphone going, you will do this NCAA.
We got screwed.
Yeah. Like, is there a time and a place for it? Sure. But
Absolutely.
Just because, just remember Batman did his best work in the back of a cave and no one saw what he was doing, right? So and until he comes out and just royally screws the pooch on something, I think we need to have the dudes back. And
100%.
He's keeping us relevant. And he's keeping us in the conversation and a lot of things. And there's a lot to be proud of as an NC State fan. Now, do we want more? Of course we do. We're fans. We want more.
Yeah. Well, because none of those 4 AC titles are in the major three
sports.
with baseball, men's basketball, football. We get that.
Yeah.
But I'm also saying football, men's basketball, baseball, are we moving in the right direction? I would say so. 100%.
Investing in all of them.
We're investing. We're making the right moves.
Here's the other thing that you didn't talk about when he was navigating. He was navigating through an NCAA investigation too in men's basketball.
Yeah.
You know, and we got off pretty light, all things considered, that could have happened. So he's doing what he needs to do.
Yep. He got us in the Magnificent Seven.
Yeah. Which that has been, because I will say, so like literally this week I had the awesome job of staining my fence, which takes forever. And so literally for the first time I had to find like some podcasts to listen to, and listen to like Adam and Gold and Julio and Ovi's, talk about your conference line in the Magnificent Seven. God, that was hilarious. That was like, where did this guy come up with the name Magnificent Seven? He pulled it out of his butt.
No, that's a movie.
Yeah.
That's a movie.
But again, it wasn't the teams that said we are the Magnificent Seven. It was the one reporter saying we're going to call these guys the Magnificent Seven.
But again, he pulled it from a movie. Like it wasn't something that came up original. Like,
right? Yeah. No, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
And Carson brings into talking about when it came to the bowl game, men's and women's basketball tournament and baseball tournament. That only other AC team do it was Duke. Once again, salute from what we've heard. Nothing that we've heard in terms of Sam Highfield and Willison. They should be good to go.
Fodder.
That's Twitter fodder. Yep. And then the last thing I want to talk about before we wrap this up, got to give a huge shout out to our now Pac Pro Diana Schneider from women's tennis, who, per Simon Ershaw, the head coach of women's tennis, said Diana Schneider becomes the first active college player this century, if not longer, to go directly from NCAA tennis to a major tennis draw and play in the singles main draw and win her opening round match. So again, just think about that. So she really went from basically a week ago playing UNC in the NCAA finals and then getting on a plane, flying to Paris, and then winning her first match against one of the top women's tennis players in the world and winning both sets to get there. So can't say enough, and it's so exciting to see somebody in the tennis world repping NC State. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, and a completely different surface too, right? Playing on clay and French Open. So
yeah, absolutely. So and again, like it's pretty obvious that Diana is definitely an NC State fan from even just being here a couple of months. So excited to continue to support her and be able to say, maybe down the road that she could be one of our famous alumni, maybe kind of branch off of the normals, Phillip Rivers. And it's like, we need some new blood, we need some new names, the Zach Galifianakis. It's like, okay, that's cool. But, so yeah. Amanda B here saying Diana's going to be my new secret weapon in my WTA fan slam fantasy.
I didn't even know this was a thing. That's awesome.
I didn't know that was a thing either. Yep. I guess there is no limits to the world of fantasy sports, right? So
not anymore.
No, absolutely not. Well, all right, Wolfpack Nation. Want to say thank you once again. Oh, one other thing I got to give a shout out because this just happened right before we went live.
Breaking news.
Patrick Bailey is that guy, y'all. Patrick Bailey is that dude. Like, he has been absolutely phenomenal. I just put it in a tweet right before we went live. But again, this guy's hitting 355 right now and 36 at bats. He has 2 home runs, 11 RBIs, a 657 slugging percentage. And again, there's no doubt that the Giants Twitter page alone is loving him. And so, and everything we've heard from the Giants organization is that they're loving him. They have an older, catcher. And looking at this guy who's a switch hitter, there's no doubt either them or somebody will love to have him on their MLB roster. I think he has solidified that, in my opinion. But just my 2 cents there. Anyway, y'all, well, thank you so much again. Benjamin wraps me up here saying, I've called it all along. I've told Cook for a month not to worry about it, that we will make the regional and the ACC tournament. See, Benjamin, that's why I like you again. You're saying it right here. You called it all along, which,
all right.
Good for you.
So now that we've made a regional, right? So we got it Friday, 1 p.m. ACC Network.
AC Network.
I'm telling you right now. Look, this is my my thing to Wolfpack Nation. If you hear it here right now, if you show up to this game or to South Carolina, I will buy you a beer or a soda if you're not old enough. But let's go make Columbia red, not that scarlet nonsense.
Garnet.
I don't even
and
know
black.
what they are. Garnet,
Yeah.
whatever that is. They sold that from Florida State. But anyway, so let's go rock some red in Columbia. Let's go turn it into Doak Southwestish, I guess.
Yeah.
And
Northwest.
let's go win a regional.
Absolutely. Let's go make it happen. Let's have some fun here and let's make the best out of it. Hey, no pressure on us. Everything to gain, nothing to lose. And let's go make it happen.
Let's go.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much again for joining us. Really do appreciate it. First and foremost, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and we would really, really appreciate that. It's free to do. And to make sure that you do not miss out on any of our new content. I know last week we came out with some awesome episodes, which you haven't checked out that with Jaden Scott, our new running back commit for football. Make sure you go check that out first and foremost. And we have some fun episodes coming out this week to kind of get you a little bit excited about football. And so just again, make sure to stay tuned for that. And if you haven't followed us already at Tuffy Talk Now on Twitter and Instagram, make sure to go do that. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please do us a big favor. Hit that like button. It's again simple and easy to do. And if you didn't like this conversation, just double click it, just to really make it very clear that you did not like this conversation. We appreciate that as well.
Greg
and
is
ready, Coach. Put me in.
Go Pack 9. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's get it done, baby. Thank you all so much for joining again. We really appreciate all of the support. Thank you, Amanda, for joining the channel. We really appreciate it. And as always, go Pack, y'all.